Is Labour's Shadow Justice Secretary Richard Burgon.
Morning, Sophy.
Thank you for coming on after a difficult week for the Labour Party. We just heard from Caroline Flint there, clearly emotional. She said she's trying to stem back her anger. She said that those around Corbyn have been off the planet in the way that they have ignored some of the concerns of working class constituents in her seat. She was saying that some in the Shadow Cabinet look down on her voters as stupid, that Labour may never win again unless there's change. What did you make of some of the points she made?
Well, I only saw the end of her interview. It's important that we listen to Caroline. I'm desperately sorry that Don Valley has lost such a powerful voice in Parliament. It's right that we listen to what Caroline says. I, too, have represented a Leave constituency, and it doesn't get more working class than East Leeds, that voted by over 60% to Leave. I won that election, and we got a bigger Labour vote than we did in either 2001,
What, so she'd been a bit more like you then? Don Valley would have...
No, I'm not saying
Labour.
that. I'm saying what it shows is that we can win in Leave seats. The picture is complicated. Caroline, who I respect greatly, actually voted for Boris Johnson's deal and still didn't win. So I think what that shows is that there's no easy answers to the problem we've had in this really bad and heartbreaking election result. But it is important that we listen to Caroline and all other colleagues, both colleagues who lost their seats, but also people who wanted elected as new MPs who sadly weren't elected on Thursday either. I
mean, it was a bloodbath, wasn't it, what happened this week? Labour won fewer seats than in any election since 1935. Jeremy Corbyn lost 2.5 million voters compared to the last election. What do you think went wrong?
Well, it was a dreadful election result, and there's no getting away from that. There's no prettifying that. I think it became, as per the Sky headline or the Sky line, the Brexit election. If you look at 2017 and compare it to 2019, in 2017 we had the same leader, the same Shadow Chancellor, the same Shadow Home Secretary, a very similar socialist manifesto, and we gained 3 million votes. Fast forward to 2019 and we had a bad election defeat and lost votes and lost seats. The thing that changed between those 2 years, in my opinion, is that Brexit became something which overshadowed traditional party loyalties.
But that's the point, isn't it? Brexit was the defining issue of the day, and people did not like Labour's position on Brexit. I mean, that's exactly what Caroline Flint is saying, that in these seats, people just didn't like what you were saying on Brexit.
I mean, our attempt to bring the country together, people who voted Leave and Remain, didn't work.
Well, it did bring the country together against your Brexit position.
I accept that didn't work, and I'm so sorry. And the Labour Party is so sorry that it didn't work, because there are people in our country who are going to be facing tougher times in the next 5 years through no fault of their own under a Thatcherite in number 10 Downing Street Boris Johnson. But this was a Brexit election. I don't believe the next election will be a Brexit election. And what is the case is that there's no electoral future for the Labour Party if we water down our opposition to the Conservative cuts and Conservative austerity that's on the way in the next few years.
Although Boris Johnson says austerity is over, doesn't he?
I don't believe a single thing.
And he says that he's going to prioritise the NHS.
I don't believe a single thing that Boris Johnson says. He's shown he'll say anything in order to get into power. And I think that this talk about the NHS and legislation, putting their commitment to legislation, is a simple gimmick. Let's see what he does.
On Brexit, just quickly, was it a mistake to support a second referendum in retrospect?
Well, I think the issue of Brexit is now done and dusted. We are leaving the European Union.
We have to analyse it, don't we?
Of course.
You know, it's just days after the election result. A straight answer would be fine. Do you think it was a mistake? Genuinely, do you think it was a mistake?
I think it was right to try and bring people together and let the people have a final say. The people have now rejected that, and we need to move on from that. We're leaving the European Union. What we now need to look at is trying to, when we leave, protect jobs, protect the economy, and stop any sellout of our NHS to Trump's fat cat
So
friends.
you think it was right, then, to have a second referendum?
I think it was right to attempt to bring the country together on that basis. Did it fail? We've got to be open. It did fail, and we've got to understand that the place where... I mean, it was a complex picture across the country, but the places where we did worst were small northern Leave towns where we lost votes to the Conservative Party and lost votes to the Brexit Party. We need, as a Labour Party, to get the votes back of people who voted Leave and who are persuaded by the Conservative slogan, get Brexit done. They did want to get Brexit done. OK. Jeremy Corbyn has written in 2 newspapers today, but we're going to have a quick look at what he said in The Observer.
This is Jeremy Corbyn. He said, "I'm proud that on austerity, on corporate power, on inequality and on the climate emergency, we've won the arguments and rewritten the terms of political debate. But I regret that we did not succeed in converting that into a parliamentary majority for change." If this is winning the argument, what does losing the argument look like?
Well, I think that in terms of winning the argument, it's telling that Boris Johnson felt it necessary to make pledges about properly funding our national health service.
He won the argument then, didn't he?
He felt it necessary to say that austerity was going to be over. I don't think it will be, unfortunately. But it's a tragedy that we didn't win this general election. It's a tragedy. I mean, when I was out campaigning in my own constituency and elsewhere, I met people suffering who are desperate for a Labour government, people on universal credit, people paying the bedroom tax, people on zero-hours contracts. And we've seen the demonisation of migrants as well by Boris Johnson. All of these people's lives would be worse off because Labour didn't win that election. For that, I'm truly heartbroken. We need to win the next general election, and that means winning back those lost votes. And it particularly means winning back the votes of people who wanted to leave the European Union.
You're talking there about winning back votes in different areas. We can just show two maps here, which I think kind of illustrates this point, really. So the one on the left is from 1997. So you can see the kind of spread of red there. In 2019, it's almost as if you retreated into these metropolitan areas and abandoned whole swathes of the country. I mean, do you think you really understand your kind of voters in these heartlands?
Well, as I say, I represent a working class Leave seat.
Leeds is a metropolitan area, though, isn't it? I mean, it's not a town.
My constituency is a very working class area that voted by over 60% to leave the European Union. And as I say, we got a bigger Labour vote there than we did in 2001, 2005 and 2010. But, of course, lessons need to be learned. It was a disastrous election result, and for that, we're truly sorry. But I think, as I say, this was a Brexit election. The next election won't be a Brexit election. But we need to look at ourselves and at our performance and how we lost votes with humility. We need to analyse that.
So what was the biggest mistake then? If you have to look at it with humility, you need to analyse. What do you think was the biggest mistake that the Labour Party made? Not external forces, not the media, not Brexit. What was your biggest mistake?
I think we do need further time to analyse that because we lost votes to different areas. In different areas, we lost votes to different parties. But I think the biggest mistake the Labour Party made was perhaps underestimating the desire for people who'd voted Leave to leave the European Union.
But you still think a second referendum was the right policy?
I think he was right to try and bring people together. And it's very easy in hindsight to say this. But look, there were no easy solutions. Some people in our party were saying the easy solution would have been to become an ultra-Remain party. We didn't. Look what happened to the Liberal Democrats. Their leader wasn't even elected and they pursued an ultra-Remain position. OK. When we went out during the election campaign, whether East Renfrewshire, Grimsby, Kensington, Cheltenham, something that came up again and again was Jeremy Corbyn. Was Jeremy Corbyn's leadership a problem? Jeremy Corbyn was mentioned on the doorstep with me, and I'm a great admirer and friend of Jeremy. What did people say? But when I was campaigning for Tony Blair, Gordon Brown and Ed Miliband, they were mentioned on the doorstep too. But what did people say about Jeremy Corbyn on the doorstep to you? Well, a minority of people mentioned what they'd read in The Sun or the Daily Mail, and I think there was a character assassination of Jeremy Corbyn by The Sun and the Daily Mail. What was the concerns? The concerns were of the kind of, well, basically repeating headlines that The Sun and the Daily Mail had very effectively put across. But what were the concerns? Well, you've read The Sun and the Daily Mail as much as I have. No, but you're talking about conversations you've had. What were people saying to you? Of course. You can't just... sometimes I just feel like... Caroline Flint's there saying about how voters have been treated as stupid. You're effectively saying that anyone with concerns about Jeremy Corbyn was being duped by a headline. No, I'm not saying that. So why don't you just say what their concerns were then? Because, for example, people were saying things such as, oh, he's like a terrorist or a racist, or whatever. Both are things which are completely untrue, but were pushed by the right-wing newspapers. Those are concerns over allegations of anti-Semitism and the way that was dealt with in the party, I'm guessing, the racism part. The terrorism stuff, I suppose, is things like saying that it's better to arrest terrorists overseas or to bring back Islamic State fighters to the United Kingdom and to allow them to have citizenship, to not have their citizenship revoked. I mean, previous associations, meetings with people like IRA sympathisers, things like saying that Hamas are friends or allies. I mean, these are the kind of things, isn't it, that people were concerned about.
You can argue that they were wrong, that there was other sides to the story, that the headlines were overwritten, but they are genuine concerns people felt, no?
Some people did feel those concerns, of course, and it's been talked about a lot. But at the same time, we need to look at the fact, and I'm not pretending this election result was anything other than bad for the people who represent and seek to represent, but we did get more Labour votes than we did, for example, in the 2010 general election. The problem
a lot less seats than
yes,
then,
of course.
And also the population's gone up since then.
The problem is the distribution of those votes. So we got more votes than when we've won under Tony Blair in the past. However...
Those are votes that he won in the first place, though, wasn't it?
However...
After his landslide victory in 1997.
Yes, however, it's the distribution of those votes, and that's why we need to analyse very carefully, because you can pile up votes in certain seats, and it can make no difference under our system to the outcome that we get. So I think we need to listen. We need to listen to colleagues who lost their seats. We need to listen to colleagues who we hoped would be elected for the first time but weren't. Last night I had a meeting with two excellent candidates, one from Penistone and Stocksbridge, one from Rother Valley, both seats in South Yorkshire that voted Leave, that we hoped to win and didn't. And I was listening very carefully to what they had to say. And it's important that the party listens and reflects, because if we don't, we're not going to be able to win the next general election. I believe we can win the next general election, and I believe that we will.
Are you going to run for the leadership?
In terms of the question of leadership, obviously there's people talking to their family, there's people talking to their colleagues. I've made no secret of the fact that I would like to see Rebecca Long-Bailey as leader of the Labour Party. That's a decision for her to make. I'd like to see Rebecca Long-Bailey as a leader of the Labour Party, because I think she understands Northern Leave seats. She's had experience in the Shadow Cabinet, in charge of the Shadow Bays department, and I think she's somebody who could really help us to win back those votes that we lost. But of course, that's a decision for her. But that's what I would like to see happen.
Would you like to run as her deputy?
She'd be a fantastic first woman leader of the Labour Party.
Would you like to run as her deputy?
Well, I'm considering that. Colleagues have approached me about that, and grassroots members and trade unions encouraging me to stand. I'll be considering that in the coming weeks. But what I'm focused on at the moment is trying to analyse exactly what went wrong in this general election and exactly what we can do to make it go right, because obviously I understand that the question of leader and deputy leader is very interesting to people, but the people I'm thinking of most, the people that I met on the doorstep in my constituency and across the country who needed a Labour government. And it breaks my heart to think that we didn't win that general election, because they are going to pay the price for that. We've got a lot of work to do, and we need to start that work straight away.
Just while we've got you, I've got to ask. This has cropped up on Twitter. Back Burgon. The grassroots campaign to elect Richard Burgon as the next leader of the Labour Party. DM for inquiries. What's happening? Is it a spoof? Is it serious? What have you got anything to do with this?
Well, I haven't had a look at this. Twitter's a funny place. Twitter is Twitter.
Well, that's certainly true.
But the point I'd make is we need to focus seriously on those who are missing out because they're not getting a Labour government. People on universal credit, people paying the bedroom tax, people on zero-hours contracts, people subjected to those terrible fitness to work assessments. Their lives could have started to get a whole lot better if we'd have won that general election. We've got a duty to listen. We've got a duty to win. I believe we can win the next general election when it's not a Brexit election.
OK, Richard Burgon, thank you very much for coming in the studio. Thank you.